Howdy folks, Hellcrex here, and welcome to another episode of Thoughts from the Dystopian World, episode 23. Yes, today we're going to be talking about the Interceptor Escort Robot, the Freedom Mark II. It's a kind of an interesting little robot. It has lots of good uses. It's a basically attachment robot that you attach it to pretty much large and massive flyers and go to town with it. Now, the Freedom Mark II comes in at 30 points, so it can be a little spendy, but I think it's well worth the money to put it on the roster for your units. Okay, so they come in squadron size of 2 to 3, so you're looking at 60 to 90 points to bring a squadron of these in and attach it to, let's say, one of your large or massive flying units, aka, let's say, your sky fortresses or your valleys or something of that nature. So if you got something that's coming in, these guys can give you a little bit of assistance in taking things down. Alright, so it has a minimum movement of 0, which means it works really good with a certain very large robot, dreadnought robot, aka the Restitution. Yeah, attach that thing to it. So that's a really interesting little thing too. Now, it has a DR and a CR, a 3 and 5, which means it's pretty much kind of like your Corvettes. It's not really, they're not really something that can handle any type of pounding by any means. It's pretty much like your standard fare when it comes to frigates with most nations. It has a movement of 12, so it can be attached to something that moves a little faster. That is in the large or massive category, and has 2 hull points. So basically, you don't have to worry about these things blowing up. Hey, 2 thumbs up for that. It has 1 assault point, so if somebody does get something nearby, and you have 3 of these in a squadron running escort, similar to if you were running them like the other escorts for the FSA here. It has 2 ACAC points, which means that since these are attachments, they can run, combined together. And that means that anything coming their direction is a great supplement to the defenses of any large or massive flying or ship of that nature. So if you look at, let's go up here, what's a large, we got the heavy bomber, which is, that's got a 10-inch move, so it can move along with that one. And that's a medium. And let's see, the valley, there we go, the large. That has a movement of 7, so it can stay and add its ACAC to that, which is 7, and then if you're running it with the Savannah, which had 9, so you're looking at some pretty good amount of ACAC that can be tossed out there and knock down any type of rockets or any type of small air squadrons that be coming their direction. It has the compulsory 1 CC, which is something that can be used with these, because if you're running them with the robot, the Restitution, as their escort, it's going to be something that's pretty low, so it can use the CCs to concussion charges to protect it. Has a RAM rating of 1, so if by chance you just happen to run into something with it, 1 die, pretty much these things are going to get toasted. So don't use them as kamikaze drivers at all, because they're not going to do much in the first place. Now, the interesting thing is that they basically have little miniguns on these things. If you ever look at the model, they're like little itty bitty miniguns, and they have gun arms, which they don't have a left and right gun arm. Is basically they combine them together as one weapon system. They do have a 270-degree fore arc, so about the only place you have to not worry about something hitting is directly behind them. And typically, if you have these things out front, that's you're going to have what you're escorting is going to be behind them anyway. So it's not overly a big deal. But with a 270-degree arc, hey, that's pretty good. Now they do have some model assigned rules, which is attachment, which for FSA, large and massive. So you can have 3 of these attached to a large model to be floating around, and there's nothing to say that they can't be attached to a like a ship, because they do have a minimum movement. So if that ship is parked and not moving, these things can hover. These are the Iron Man suits basically for the game. They can just park themselves and not worry about moving. Do have the rule elusive and evasive maneuver and small target. So if a large capital ship is shooting at them, they have a minus to their die roll, so they only get hit on a 5 or 6. If it's a small unit is attacking them, they still only hit on a 5 or 6. So any way you look at it, it makes it a little harder for somebody to hit them. And if you have anything that's trying to do, they can do some evasive maneuvers, and they have a +1 to that. Other than that, there isn't much else that will help them. Now the gun arms for their weapon systems go out to the 3 range bands, and they have 2 dice out at range band 3, so out to 24. And this is kind of like a supplementary weapon system. It's like an afterthought in a way. But if you have it attached to a large model, it's just an extra attack that you can throw out there. So if you have 3 of them in a squadron, start with a 2 plus the 2, that's 4. Half of 4 is 2. So you're throwing 4 dice at something, and they're small secondary targets. So you're going to be hitting on a 4, 5, or 6 anyway. So that's not bad. It's not great, not bad. So 4 dice. If you shoot something like a frigate or a corvette or any type of bomber or anything of that nature, you do have a chance of maybe doing a point of damage, maybe 2 points of damage. And if you really roll really good, you might even get up to 3 or just a CR. So it's not going to be something you're going to pretty much count on. So, it's like, yep, I'm just going to throw it and see what sticks at the wall. Now, they start getting a little better when they get into the second range band. They have 3 dice. So you got 3 plus 6, half that, so 6 dice. So 6 dice, then you're starting to get into that range where you might be definitely hitting the CR, maybe even the DR or the CR on, let's say, cruisers, or a heavy bomber or something of that nature. So you might be able to do some good damage at the second range band. Now, if something gets in really close to the first range band, and you're looking at 8 dice. 8 dice are pretty much something that works pretty good at doing damage on a target. So there you go. That's what you have to look at when it comes to that. Now, how do I typically use these things? Most of the time, when I did have some, I sold them to a client because they wanted some, and I was like, oh, I'll just get some new ones, and then the bottom fell out of the company, and I never did pick some more up, and I've been trying ever since to pick some up. And unfortunately, I can't seem to find them anywhere. But the interesting thing is when I'm running my restitution, I'm attaching squad. I used to run a squadron of 3 of these with it, and it would work pretty good. And as the restitution moves forward, these guys would lay down a little bit of fire, a little bit of protection, at anything that would come its way. You know, as an attachment unit, or I would use them with my valley, and then they'd be like the tip of the spears. The valley's moving in close. You got the rockets going out at a distance, and then these guys, along with the broadsides, are picking up closer targets and hammering them and knocking them down for other targets that are units that follow on. And if somebody's trying to send any rockets their direction, you know, they're helping knocking them down. And also, when I had these attached to my restitution, my dreadnought robot, if somebody's sending torpedoes during the war, you know, they work really good for knocking down torpedoes. You know, they don't have a lot of dice, you know, but it adds up. It's something that, you know, works out. The more dice you have, the better off you are. So that is pretty much it. That's how I use these guys. They're not bad for if you like using any type of escort units for your large capital ships or massive ships. These will fit the bill quite nicely. And being that if you have something that flies, this is your version of an escort ship for something that can fly around, so they can move at the same speed. That's the thing, is that you want to keep these things kind of like out front, like they're the kind of the speed bump type thing for you. But that'll be it. That's everything that you need to know about them. I like using them. They're worth the time and effort to throw in if you like using escorts. And we'll see you in the next one. Craig's out.